I'm Hunter Wade at the Athletes Lounge podcast. I'm here with my guest.
David Alexander, girls basketball coach at Central High School.
So, getting right into it, Coach, we're recording this on the 3rd of November. Your opener's tomorrow. So, what's your, outlook going into the season and going into the opener?
I think we have high expectations just because of the success we had late last year. But obviously, we talk as a program all the time that was in the past, and we got to kind of write our own story as a new team this season. So yes, the expectations are there. I think the potential is there, but it's one game at a time, and we just got to keep looking forward.
So, what's speaking about the success you had last season, what is the goal going into this season?
I think our goal stays the same. We want to obviously try to stay competitive in our conference and be able to compete for a sectional championship at the end. And you talk about goals, but goals consistently change. So if we're able to reach that goal, then our goal then it goes up again to a regional championship, and we try to take another step forward in that direction.
So, how would you describe the way you want your team to play, both offensively and defensively?
I would say offensively, quick and controlled. Um, but we try not to have the ball stick too much. We constantly want the ball moving up the floor, sides of the floor. We kind of have a 1 second rule with our girls where they get 1 second to decide if they want to shoot, pass, or dribble. But we also got to stay controlled in that aspect, and that just means not throwing it everywhere, turning it over. If you're going to do that, you're going to end up beating yourself. So offensively, it's quick and controlled. Defensively, just sound. We have a few really good on-ball defenders, and we kind of let them do their thing. But just staying really sound behind them and making sure we're not giving up layups and we're talking on screens. And if anybody does get beat, that help side's got to be there.
So, at this point in the year, your openers tomorrow. How much film can you actually watch on that team to study them?
Luckily, Terre Haute South has played a game, so we do
Yeah.
have one game film. But I think everyone would say that an opener in any season is not a true indication of what a team is. So we'll even with that one game, we'll treat it like it's game 20. We'll dive in on a scout. We'll break down the film. We'll look at tendencies and everything else. But one game's hard to go off of. You don't get a lot out of one game. So it's kind of more doing the little things that you do well as opposed to taking away somebody else's strengths or weaknesses at this point.
So, uh, defensively and offensively, is there anything you thought you're going to be able to do going into the year, which you had to change up maybe once you got the preseason and scrimmages?
Not so far. Um, we kind of have some staples in our system. We're going to run our motion. We're going to try to run transition and get up the floor quick. If it's not there, then we go into our motion. That's kind of our offense. Play wise, that always changes year to year. It changes based off personnel. It can even change mid year. If plays aren't working, you got to mix it up and try to find something new. But right now, the staples are still there. Defensively, we're strongly a man team. We pride ourselves on being able to get stops on that end of the floor, no matter what's happening on the other side of the ball. Um, but no, so far not. You ask me that again in a month, and that answer might change.
So, how tall is your team this year? Do you think that your team's going to have good size?
We're kind of an interesting dynamic. We got two girls that are right around 6 foot. Maddie Shirley and Olivia Holler are 6'1" and 5'11". Mimi White is right there at 5'9", 5'10". But then we also have kind of a spectrum of girls that's 5'2", 5'3". And what's beautiful about those girls is they're quick and strong and physical, and what they lack in height, they definitely have in heart and fight. So, do we have some size? Yes, but we also have a lack of it. We just got to find balance between.
So, is there anything that you want to implement going forward into this season that I guess you just didn't have the time to in preseason?
Um, we will always add stuff as we go.
Yeah.
Don't want to tip my hat too much on anything like
No.
that, but we never have everything in right at the beginning. We'll add stuff mid year, we'll add stuff in the next couple weeks, and then we always throw a few wrinkles in come sectional time. So those just vary on kind of the mold of your team and who you are whenever you want to add that stuff. But yeah, we don't have everything in right now, and I don't plan to for a little bit.
So, were you able to have most of your girls for most of the preseason, or were any of them still tied up in sports?
I would say this was probably the first year I've had the majority of our girls. We did have a couple in soccer, and we had few in volleyball. But usually we have very small numbers in the fall, and that wasn't so much the case this year. We were actually able to play a little 5-on-5 at times, which we haven't been able to do that in the past. So that part's nice. You always love being able to get those extra reps, but at the same time, we are a smaller 4A school, and I'm big on multi-sport athletes, so I have no problem with those girls being tied up in something else and kind of refreshes them when they get to us.
How big of a how big of a chance is it for you to see how well your stuff works in these first couple of games because you're actually going against a new opponent who doesn't know what you're running. How big is that to actually see if you think you can get away with what you want to do this year?
I think it's important. Anytime you talk execution, it's always important to know, is the stuff you're running right for your personnel, and can your girls execute it? It could be the greatest play in the world, but if it doesn't get ran right, it's not going to work. So just being able to go out there these first few games and seeing, is this system or these play calls that we're trying, are these going to work? If not, I got to make adjustments for us to try to put them in positions to succeed. But yeah, these first few games are huge for that. And we'll just kind of see how it's going. And if we need to adjust, we will.
How has your coaching style evolved over the last 5 years at North?
At Central,
I said North, you're at Central, and I knew
yeah,
that.
that's all
The
right. Um, it has evolved a little bit. I think so. I actually always coached boys before I got to Central. Um, and with boys, you got to be a little bit tougher, a little bit meaner. Um, and I feel with girls, they've actually lightened me up a little bit. I have some of the greatest kids in the world that come from great families. And girls make you want to have fun all the time. So I think my style and my lightheartedness has definitely changed on that side. As far as what's important to me on the court, kind of the standards that we set in our locker room, expectations in the classroom, none of that's really wavered, and I don't think that will. But I think girls have definitely made me a little bit more lighthearted, if I could say that.
Now, going to my question where North came in, out of North, Bossy, the other Evansville schools, uh, which are in the games, do you consider when you play them like a bigger, well, I guess what's the biggest inner Evansville rival to you, do you feel like?
Just the makeup of the city, North will always be kind of our biggest rival. Just because the two schools don't seem to love each other at times. We've had a pretty good rivalry, I feel like, with Wrights the last few years. We've tended to be competitive. When we've been down, they've kind of been down, and it's been good games. When we've been up, they've been up, and it's been good games. So I feel like that is kind of rivalry in itself. At the end of the day, when you look inside the city, a lot of these kids know each other. A lot of these kids have gone to school with each other at times or hang out together on the weekends. So there's no easy game. There's no game that has more importance on anything else, because to each of them, these games are always very important.
Yeah, the that's where my North thought came from, and it was intrusive in the last question. The right now, uh, going to the opener, what are you telling? You've watched what film you can. What are you telling your kids, especially some maybe the younger kids that your first crack at varsity? What are you kind of telling them? I guess the easy nerves they have.
Uh, we talk about nerves is a good thing. Nerves means you care. I think if people aren't nervous, maybe it's not important enough to them. But we're just telling them, this is our first challenge, and we have multiple challenges this year, but you can't look ahead to any of those. Terre Haute South tomorrow is our first challenge of the year, and that's where all your focus has got to be. They'll get a scouting report tonight. We'll kind of walk our scout, and they just need to look over that and know who does what well, what we need to take away from them, and what things we need to do well. But at the end of the day, you just got to go out there and play free. You can't be afraid to make mistakes, and just move on to that next play. We talk next play mentality all the time. And if you make 5 mistakes in a row, you better be good on that sixth one with that next play mentality.
As a coach, what's the most exciting thing for you each year?
I think the most exciting thing is seeing the girls come together, but then achieve success. Obviously, last year was kind of our first year of having a lot of success here, under me, anyways. But just seeing the excitement they went through and the support they got. I know when we made our sectional run, Harrison's gym was packed, and it was packed with people from our community, and seeing the support that those girls got from that, nothing will ever beat that. It's truly a great feeling, and just seeing them achieve something that they set out to do.
So current I've gotten a couple different answers from different coaches about this. Do you use the before sectional season as a time to test things out, or do you play every game as if it's the of utmost importance? I've gotten two distinctly different answers from different coaches.
I think every game matters. To sit here and say a game doesn't matter, I think I personally don't believe that. With that being said, the beauty of the regular season is you always have another game. Whereas when you do get to tournament time, it's win or go home. And for seniors, that's an even bigger end all because it could be the end of a career. So yes, every game has its importance. You test stuff out throughout the season, um, but no, it is a different mentality change when you get to the tournament for sure.
Anything at your what's the thing you've tried to keep the most consistent between your 5 years at Central?
I think on the floor, it's just been the staples I talked about offensively and defensively, the way we do things on both sides of the ball. But then just kind of the expectations off the floor. We try to keep our girls involved in the community. We talk about being good students and good people in our building. Um, we try to keep it lighthearted. We want them to walk out of our door in 4 years and not only be better basketball players, but be better people and have an understanding of kind of trying to serve others. But we want this to be a program that they were proud to be a part of, excited to be a part of. And when they do leave, they want to come back. They want to come back and support and watch and participate in our alumni games and that kind of stuff. So just keeping those standards and expectations, I think, to where it's something that means something to them.
How ca how much control or influence do you have over your middle school ranks?
I'm in good communication with our middle school coaches. Um, Obviously, sometimes coaches come and go, and you have to take a little bit to learn a new coach and get their phone numbers and communication and all that. But I got pretty good communication with most of them, so I know who they're playing, how they're doing. I know a lot of our middle school girls already. Feeder teams are playing on travel teams, stuff like that. So the communication is definitely there.
How how easy or difficult has it been to maintain numbers these past 5 years?
It's a great question. We've actually seen our numbers go up over the last 5 years. When I first got to Central, I was told there were 6 girls in the program, which was kind of disheartening. But we ended up with 14 that first year, and 14 is not easy to field a JV and varsity team. We had 14 the first couple, and we still had JV teams, which I'm proud of for that. That we had girls that were playing both ways and really made a commitment to it to make it work. Because when you got 14 girls, you can't have people missing too often. But we've actually seen an increase in numbers. And I think that is a kudos to our middle school and elementary and feeder coaches, getting kids out and getting them to play and getting them excited about it. Right now, our numbers are pretty good. We're at 19 this season. We were at 20 last season. So we're kind of at a number we want to be at. I would love to get us to an actual freshman team, which is not very common on the girls' side in our area right now. But I think we're close. We're usually 1 or 2 girls away right now from being able to do that. So that's a goal of mine I got for us in the future. But number wise, I'm happy with where we're at.
That's a lot of the coaches I've talked to, the numbers have been the biggest struggle
Mhm.
almost more than anything. The is there anything you try to what's the thing you try to most consistently, I guess, teach the girls? Is it basketball IQ, ball handling, shooting? What's the biggest, I guess, thing for you?
I would say communication. You got to be able to communicate on offense. You got to be able to communicate on defense. You got to be able to communicate to your coaches, to your teammates in life. It's something we talk about. I discussed it at our parent meeting. Tell our girls on day one, you're young women now. And even though some of you are only 14 and 15, it's time that you start learning how to have tough conversations, share bad news, whatever it may be. You've got to be able to communicate with us. So we put a big emphasis on them being the communicators. But we also want that to obviously translate on the floor because that makes for a better basketball team. But I would say that's something that we talk about all the time.
How often do you have you had to switch up? You've had a pretty consistent offense, but how much have you kind of had to switch up what you do game to game offense and defensively?
Uh, Offensively, again, I think our girls have bought into our motion. And we had a group last year that ran it really well. I think this group this year is going to have success in it as well. We obviously have play calls ready to go. If we need a bucket, if somebody's hot, if we just need to change up a pace or some sort, we have plays for that reason. Defensively is a little different story. If you get behind, if you feel like you can pressure someone, you may obviously throw a press on. If you're just getting crushed in your man, then you obviously got to get out of it. So that's where you have zone defenses ready to go. But that's kind of more a game to game. It can even be a quarter to quarter depending on how the game's going. So you always got to have multiple defenses ready. But offensively, we stay pretty true to what we want to do.
What's been consistently the biggest struggle for your teams that you just haven't been able to figure out yet, or maybe it's just been a personnel issue?
I would say my first 4 years, it was for sure scoring. I thought we got great looks. Shots just didn't fall often. Last year, we started off the year and we were really struggling to score, and then it kind of clicked. I think I talk to our girls all the time. In today's game, there's so much emphasis on 3-point shooting, and that's great. But if you're not shooting at a high clip, not everybody has Steph Curry walking on their team. So if you're not shooting at a high clip, you got to find other ways to score. And that's kind of the old school style of you got to get to the basket and get to the free throw line. So just trying to remind our girls of that. Like, yeah, I love the three ball as much as you do, but if it's not falling, you got to find other ways to score. And that it's not just to keep shooting it. You got to try to get inside and get fouled or get to the line or get layup. So just that reminder to them.
So you took me into my next question. So you do prefer when you can just get to the rim and finish at the rim as opposed to having to take outside shots?
I love threes. But if you could tell me you can shoot all threes and make half of them, or shoot all layups and make all of them, I'm taking the layups. I think percentages are going to play out on that one.
It, how much we kind of talked about how like you can watch film for Vigo because they played a game, or South Vigo. How much film do you watch on a normal basis for a game just throughout the season?
So me and my assistant coach Richie, we pretty much do all our scouting right now. And we kind of switch off and on. So I'm taking South Vigo. She'll take South Spencer. We got New Albany next week. We each try to watch 2 games. Obviously, early in the year, you don't necessarily get that luxury, but try to watch 2 games. And if you can see them live once, we try to see them live once. The games are great for you if you can hear a play call and see the action. You can keep replaying it until you get it down perfectly. You can obviously see numbers and substitutions, like that's all great, but being able to see a team live is so much better and more productive than film. You get a sense of the height, you get a sense of the athleticism, you get a sense of the intensity. So we always try to watch at least 2 games, but we're also trying to put an emphasis on seeing them once live.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna speaking of which, I was gonna anyone in the staff you want to shout out, but you kind of took care of that.
I got my entire staff deserves a shout out. I got a lot of people in our building that need shout outs because they do a lot for our program. Our staff is Stephanie Ritchie, Faith Frank, and Amaya Thomas. Faith Frank and Amaya are going to take our JV this year, and they are 2 former players of mine with high energy. They do a great job of making it fun for our girls. Our girls love them to death, as they should. But they're also high IQ basketball people that do a really good job of teaching the game. So they're great. Richie's been with me for 4 years. She was actually the IBCA Assistant Coach of the Year last year for good reason. I always say she's the brains behind the operation. But then we got people in our building like Kathy Ferris, our AD, Janie Hoppy, our secretary. Chris Geyser is, I always say, he's our guy that wears all our hats. If we need something done, he gets that done for us. But we got a ton of people that make our program successful and definitely deserve shout outs from that standpoint.
I was gonna say, what's it like having former players on staff?
It makes life a lot easier. One of the hardest things I think to do in coaching is coach your coaches. It's one thing to set your bar for expectations and standards of how you act and how you treat people and how this program's going to look. But when you're trying to teach them a system that they're not comfortable with, and we've had that before, that's always difficult because you're kind of asking them to step out of their coaching norms and knowledge. So having people that played under you and completely understand and don't have to come to you with every question, it makes my life a lot easier.
And anything that that over the years that you really tried to stick and it just didn't stick?
Mm, not that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll think of something once we get off this call.
You know, so what in practice, you talk about communication's your biggest thing. What in practice do you think you work on most?
We usually do some sort of motion and defensive segment every day. Yesterday was a great deal of blocking out. We really struggled with that in our scrimmage. So our girls got a heavy dose of that. But I'd say it is the communication is what we work on the most every day. I mean, we have our like we tell our girls, you need to talk on offense, you need to talk on defense, you need to talk when you're out of bounds, cheering on teammates. There should never be a quiet gym. So if you ask what we talk about the most, it is talking. And that's something that I want our girls. You got to be able to talk when you're tired. You got to be able to talk when you don't want to, when you're frustrated. And if that talking stops, that's when morale and energy drops as well.
I talked to some other coaches about this. Has there been any struggle in your time there with kind of girls watching basketball and understanding basketball?
Um, that is a very interesting question. So yes, just from a terminology standpoint, sometimes girls don't understand things as well. I want to shout out Lily Bevels on this. She's one of our seniors. She's a high IQ girl, and part of the reason her understanding of basketball is so high is because she just goes home and watches. She'll come back the next day and she's talking about the college game that was on, the NBA, the WNBA. I mean, the girl just watches basketball. And if you want to be a better basketball player, you got to be a student of the game. And I think it goes a long way just to watch other teams and other systems, other leagues, just watch the way they play, and you're going to start to learn things. And a lot of the way that we do things on the offensive end was taken out of other teams. You know, we didn't invent the wheel over here. We steal things that we like and we manipulate it to fit our system. But yeah, that it is a struggle at times. But I think we do have a group of girls right now that watch.
Which I'm sure that helps a lot. Helps you not have to explain everything from the start. So you talked about boxing out. Is a boxing out one of those big things for you?
It will be a big thing for us this year. I talked about kind of our height. We have a couple girls that have size, but I think a lot of teams have size. And when you get away from our 5'10s and plus, we are 5'2, 5'3, 5'4. And if you're not going to block out, you're at a huge disadvantage. So making sure that you're getting your check out every time that shot goes up, we can't give teams second opportunities.
Do with the girls, 'cause you're dealing with high schoolers, what's the biggest trouble from a coach's standpoint, and I guess the kid wrangling, like kid control aspect of your job?
I don't have a lot of it.
Oh, that's
I
nice.
said it. I said it earlier. I have phenomenal kids. Like we have some of the greatest kids, or some of the best kids in our building. They're coachable kids. They don't get in trouble in school. Even when they do, we've had some very minor issues, and they always come to me before I find out from admin or another teacher. They say, "Hey, this happened today. I just wanted to make you aware," and that's because they're accountable. But like I said, they're great kids. They come from great families, and we've been very blessed in that aspect.
Uh, you mentioned your numbers have been pretty good, but when you first had struggling numbers, Uh, what was there any pressure to go to softball games, walk the halls, go to volleyball games, see if you can not poach, but recruit for the fall, winter sport?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We definitely had that. Like I said, when I got here and it was six girls, I was wondering, are we gonna have enough to even practice for a varsity team? But we spent that first couple of years talking to anyone and everyone, just trying to make the program fun, make it something that people wanted to be a part of. I don't think we so much have that issue anymore. I think, what this group was able to do last year, and what the community saw, there is an excitement around our program right now, and I think for that reason, girls want to be a part of it. But it's something you can't take for granted, and we still have to continue to do our job as coaches, so that kids do want to come out and play, because it kind of goes in waves, and if we ever get too high and assume that everybody wants to be a part of our program, that's when they start to drop off, and you're trying to pull teeth again to get them back out.
Has there been a well, you kind of took care of my second question there. Was there any struggle when you got kids from other sports into teaching them basketball?
Um, yeah, you have people from inner city. When you're in inner city, like at Central, you have people from all different backgrounds when it comes to learning the game. I do think the way we play is kind of a high IQ system. It's simple once you get used to it, but you do have to learn certain things. Um, and sorry, my wife was calling.
No, no, you're fine.
Um, there's certain concepts you have to learn, and learn reads and terminology, and it's not the most simple thing in the world. So I think teaching them that is always the hardest aspect, but we try to simplify it for all of our girls until you get comfortable in this, and then we're going to add something new. We try not to throw the whole kitchen sink at them from the beginning. But yeah, there's always a struggle with teaching younger kids that are new to our system our concepts.
And kind of continuing that thing, so was there a struggle you think when you got there with, you're a public high school, you're smaller 4A. So and it's just the thing of public, most people that go to private high schools, everyone's in something. A lot of kids in public high school just aren't in anything. Was there, so did you get any kids that maybe weren't playing a sport, but you were able to to play a sport?
I think we've definitely been able to pull people into our program one way or another in that aspect, especially early on. When you're fighting for numbers, you just try to find great kids in the building who want to be a part of something, but you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's so many kids anymore that they just don't want to be a part of anything. And I struggle with that, whether it's a sport, a club. I mean, find a way to be a part of your community, your school, and just enjoy something. But yeah, we struggle with that early on. Not so much right now, which is a blessing. But yeah, we definitely had it early.
Yeah, and it is pretty impressive. The numbers you mentioned, that's pretty good. The number jump, which you mentioned you're in good communication with all the middle school coaches. How hard is that when you're at a place like Central? It's not like you're up here at Gibson Southern where there's not that many schools. How hard is it to control stuff at that level?
It's definitely harder. And I'll say, like, we're not usually in on interviews for, like, if there is a new coach, we don't usually get to be a part of that interview. Which I know I've been a part of small communities, and you're usually the one handpicking your coaches. So in a bigger city, that part gets tougher. But usually an email that can get sent out and just kind of introduce yourself and then get phone numbers, that goes a long way. Um, we try to do something every year, but we'll go down to our middle school rival game. So we definitely go to Tompkins and Cedar Hall, and we actually meet with the coaches. We meet with all the girls together. I have the girls that went to those middle schools get up and kind of talk about what Central basketball is and the sisterhood that it is. So we have ways of connecting and trying to build that bond, but it is a challenge at times, especially when everyone gets going in season. It gets even more difficult to communicate whenever you're getting home late and you're busy all the time.
Yeah, the getting home late in the basketball season is the worst part about basketball season. It's
It is.
cold. It's cold out there.
Yes, it is.
That's what the sweats and hoodie are for, though.
Absolutely. Gotta look good.
The so it's kind of all I have prepared question wise. Is there anything you want to get in? Any kids you want to shout out? You shouted out your staff, any administrators or whatever you want to say. Now is your time.
I just want to shout out our four seniors, Lily Bevels, Bree Dockery, Mimi White, and Lindsay Laney. Those four have been with our program since they were freshmen. They've always done things the right way, and they've been great at this point in our season of being leaders and really trying to help young girls. We got a bunch of freshmen in our program right now, that are trying to learn the ways, and they have no problem stepping out of a drill or talking to them before or after practice to try to help them, give them rides, whatever it is. Those four, I always say your program's only as good as your players, not only from a playing standpoint, but also from a kind of an expectation and standard standpoint. And I'm excited for this season with them, but I'm going to miss the crap out of those four when they leave, because they've always done things the right way. And they've left this program better than what they found it. So I definitely want to shout out those four.
I guess this is my last question. With you kind of mentioned the group has a good mixture of age. How big of an advantage is that? Like the group isn't just so top heavy or young heavy.
It's a huge advantage. And that's something you try to keep throughout your program, is you just want that balance, so that every year, no matter who you're losing, and you hate to lose good people and good players, but you know you have people still in your program, a good balance of people in your program that know the expectations and the standard, and you're returning enough that you don't have a huge loss. So it is a huge advantage.
Well, that's all I have, Coach. Thanks for coming on.
I absolutely enjoyed it. I appreciate you reaching out and having me on today.
Yeah, sorry about the North thing.
Yeah, that's my dogs. I apologize.
No, no, you're fine. I'm Hunter Wade at the Athletes Launch podcast, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Hey guys, this is Hunter Wade at the Athletes Launch podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe where you can. Thanks.